So this video is going to cover the very first lesson of Algebra 1 for this year. It is in your packet on page 2, and at the top of the page you're going to see a few things. You're going to see this black bar that says MTCP, or it probably says it spelled out today, Math Thinking and Class Practice. And underneath of it, you're going to see the title of today's lesson, which is the Stats Lesson Intro. Given a set of numerical data, can you find the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier? Hopefully these are all words that you've heard of before, but if not, we're going to go ahead and talk about those and how to find those values. So the first thing we did in class was did this little mental math warm-up. And the whole goal here was we're going to be adding some lists of numbers together. And so if you can do a little bit of that in your head, it's always just going to be a little bit quicker. On these, what you hopefully noticed was that each pair of those digits, those values, added up to 10, which meant the total had to be 30. And on this one, it looks a little bit more tricky, but if you look at the first and the last one, that adds up to 10, that adds up to 10, that adds up to 10, and then there's just a 5 left over. So we've got 35 on those. So we can add some of these up with our mental math skills by grouping the numbers to make those 10s, 10 pairs. So, starting off with our notes for today, I'll try to go quick on this. When we talk about statistics, we are specifically talking about the science and art of learning from data. So we're going to go out and collect some data. We're going to analyze it. And communicate. Our findings. And so we're going to talk about different ways that we analyze a set of data, different ways we can communicate that data to other people. I should say findings. There we go. And so 3 of the ways that we're going to analyze data right now are what we call our measures of central tendency, our measures of center. Some of these are better than others, but the mean is the first one we're going to talk about, and this is the average of a list of values. And the way we find an average or a mean is that we take the sum of all the values and we divide it by the number of values. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. My pen's being a little picky today. So there's another word in there that we might need to review really quickly, but the sum just means that we're going to add them all up. And so we could do that with some mental math here. If you look at this, this happens to be the same list that we talked about already. So 5 and 5 makes 10, 6 and 4 makes 10, 9 and 1 makes 10. So add it up. That's going to make 30. And we can notice that there are 6 numbers. So I'm going to divide by 6. And that means my average is 5. My mean is 5. The median is going to be the middle number, or the middle, I should say, the middle value when a list is ordered small to large. So you have to reorder the list from smallest to largest before you find the median. In this case, they've done that for you. So in this case, in this one, if there's an odd number of values, finding the middle number is really easy. You just kind of cross out the ones on the end if you need to until you find which single number is in the middle. So I said this is if there's an odd number of values. That's really easy. So there our median is 3. Now if you have an even number of values, you're going to have to do a little bit more work here. If I start crossing out some numbers, you're going to see both 3 and 4 are equally in the middle. And the way we deal with that is by finding the mean. And so we just add them up not 3 plus 3, 3 plus 4. And divide by 2 because there are two numbers there. Well, that's 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So our median is 3.5 there. The final thing is the mode, which is the most occurring value, the most frequent value. So I'm going to say most frequently occurring. Something like this first one is pretty easy. If we look at these, there's a 9, a 1, a 4, a 6, and 2 5s. Well, there's 2 5s, so we have one mode, and it is 5. If we look at the second one here, there's 2 1s and 2 2s, which means we have, in this case, 2 modes. I'm going to write multiple modes. 1 and 2. The line with where you stop dealing with multiple modes might be a little blurry, but for sure if there's 2 numbers that occur the same number of times, we'll say that has 2 modes. The last one, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those numbers occur once, so we're just going to say that there's no mode. So those are our measures of central tendency. That's what those are called. They're all ways of kind of getting the middle or the most normal of the numbers. Next up, we've got measures of spread, variability, which in this case, we're going to talk about range this year. There are other ones. The range is the distance, or we could call it the spread, from the highest to the lowest value. We're going to use a couple of words here. The highest value, we're going to call the maximum. Try that again. Not working out well. So we're going to call the highest value the maximum. Or we might abbreviate it max. The lowest value we're going to call the minimum. And we'll probably abbreviate that min. And then to actually find the range, we just take the max value minus the minimum value. That's how we find the distance between two numbers. If you're thinking about numbers on a number line, if I want to find the distance between 1 and 5, rather than just counting, I could say, well, 5 minus 1 is 4. That's how far it is. It would be 4 hops to get from 1 to 5. And so that's the first one here. My highest value is 5. My lowest value is 1. So I'm doing 5 minus 1, and my range is 4. On this side, my highest value is 10. My lowest value is 2. So 10 minus 2 tells me my range is 8. So the rest of this here is going to be doing some examples. We'll do this one together. And then for the one on the back, I'll probably have you pause the video and try it on your own first. The first thing I want you to do is just to organize this in numerical order, in order from lowest to smallest. If it helps, you can kind of cross them off as you go. So each time you write down a number, cross it off so that you know you're not counting it twice or missing one. But if you think you can get them all without doing that, try it out. So there's our numbers. This time we switched around the order that we asked them in, so we're going to find the median first. So if I look in the middle of this group, I can either cross off numbers as I go, or I can find the middle and make sure it's the same distance from either side. In this case, 1 is my median. For my mean, I'm going to go ahead and add all these numbers up. You could do that with mental math. That would be a good strategy. So here I see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1s. 3 2s makes 3, or makes 6. 2 3s makes 6, and then I got 20. So I got 20, 26, 32, and then plus 7 makes 39. I'm going to divide by the total number of values here, which is 13. And this one we're starting to get to the point where you might want to use a calculator for some of these, but we get 3 when we divide those. And then our mode, the most frequently occurring number, well, a full 7 of those 13 values are 1s, so our mode is 1. So, next question down here, our location to the center. The first question is the median. The median, if we look back at our definition, the median is the middle. It is the center every single time. It's the other ones we have to worry about. Are those also at the center? So the mean is 3. That is definitely not the center of our data. 3 is way over here, center's over there. So the mean is not the center in this case. The mode is 1, and yeah, the 1, that is the center. So in this case, our mode and our median are the same. They're both the center of the data. Last thing we have is our range. In this case, remember, we're taking the max minus the min. And so we've got 20 minus 1 is 19. The last new thing we got to talk about with this, as far as analyzing this data, is there any piece of data that seems very different from the others? And if you look at this, we've got 1s, we've got 2s, we've got 3s, and then we've got a 20. So that 20 is very different from all the other ones, and we're going to call that an outlier. An outlier is just a value that is very different from all the others. And you could reasonably have, 1 or 2 outliers. If you're getting much more than that, we're probably not talking about an outlier so much anymore. The one big thing to kind of consider here is that outliers can have an effect on the results. The reason that our mean is so much higher than our median is because of that outlier in there. It's pulling our mean up. Okay, on this example right here, what I want you to do is try these out on your own without a calculator if you can, using some mental math when you've got to find the mean. Pause the video and restart it again once you've answered those questions. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to answer those questions. If you are working along with me here, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my numbers in order from smallest to biggest, and then I'll go ahead and find the mean. If I'm finding the mean, I'm going to start by looking here and say, okay, well, those zeros don't really add up to anything. I've got 3 there, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus 3 is 10, and then another 10 makes 20. So I've added them all up to 20, and I have to divide by the number of values. There's 10 values there if you count them. And that gives me 2. And that is the average. The median is always the middle number here. So if I look right in the middle, there's 10 values, which means in this case there's 2 numbers in the middle. But in this case, they're both the same, which actually makes this pretty easy. The number that's between 1 and 1 is just 1. So that is the middle value. And then the mode, there are 2 modes. There's 0 and 1, which are the most occurring value. There are both 3 of those, 3 zeros and 3 ones. The range, we're going to take the max minus the min. In this case, 10 minus 0 is in fact 10. And the outlier, if you look at these, 0, 1, 2, 3, 10. Well, 10 is pretty different from those other ones, so we're going to put 10 in there. Okay. The last thing we got to talk about here is rounding, and then we're going to show you how to use a calculator that we're going to use this year. So when we're looking at rounding, first thing we have to decide is the place values. So the spot for right after the decimal point, that is our tenths spot. The next spot is our hundredths spot. Then we've got our thousandths spot and our 10,000ths. 10,000th spot. What you're going to notice here, that's just going to keep going. The next one will be the 100,000ths, and then the millionths, and then the 10 millionths. They just keep going. And then we've got 2 rules. Whatever spot you are rounding to, the number you really need to look at is the one number to the right of that. And the rules are, if it is 5 or greater, you're going to round up. If it is less than 5, leave it alone. And that we're talking about the digit we're rounding to. So if I'm rounding to the tenths, I'm talking about the 1 there. So let's go ahead and do that really, really quick here. If I'm looking at this one and I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, I'm going to always want to identify the tenth spot, but I'm really looking at the hundredth spot, the next spot down. So since that 4 is less than 5, I'm going to go ahead and leave the 10th spot alone and just drop the rest. We're at 3.1. You'll hear people call that rounding down, because to change it from 3.1415 and dropping that 415 makes the number smaller. But we never actually drop a digit down when we're rounding. If we're going to round to the hundredth spot, change colors. I'm going to now identify my hundredth spot, but look at my next spot to the right. And since 1 is also less than 5, I'm going to leave the 4 alone. So I'll have 3.14. And on the last one here, I'm going to round to the thousandth spot, so I'll identify that thousandth spot, look at the one to the right, and since 5 is 5 or greater, I'm going to round up, and it's going to go 3.142. The most you're ever going to change a digit is by going up 1. You'll never go down, you'll never go up by more than 1, you're never going to change, you're never going to do anything with these digits back further here. Those are just kind of there. You're ignoring those unless you're actually looking at them. So that's a little review of rounding. Now the last one here is just some practice with Desmos. So if you need to, at this point, go ahead and open up Desmos.com. I'll go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm just going to go to Desmos.com. And you're going to see there's a couple of different calculators here. There's a lot of different calculators here. For today, we're going to use the scientific, but we will use all of them at some point. And so if we're using Desmos to help us with finding the mean, we're just using it as a calculator. So I'm going to add these numbers up. 18 plus 37, I'm reading off my list on the other page, you should have yours in front of you, plus 300, plus 50, plus 10, plus 0. I know adding 0 doesn't do anything, but I'm going to add it anyway. Plus 73. So I've added those up, and I've got 583. At this point, I'm just going to hit enter. I don't want to delete that. I want to leave all my work on the page. And to find the mean, I need to divide by the number of values there. So I'm going to use this previous answer key right down here at the bottom to bring my number in. Hit the divided by, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 digits there, 9 values. I am counting the 0 because that is a number. And so I get 64.7 repeating. If I go in here, I'm going to write that down just so you can see. It says round to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to put an arrow at the hundredth spot, look at this one, and that's going to tell me to round up because it's a 7, it's bigger than 5, so I'm going to go 64.8. That's going to be my rounded value. And then here at the end, find the outlier. Well, 300 is very clearly different from those other ones. And as far as possible meanings go, you come up with an idea. Like this says the following data is the amount of dollars that 9 adults had in their wallet. So come up with a reason why most people have like $50 or less, but this one person has $300. It's completely up to you what situation you want to have there. I will leave these two off. I'm not going to do them with you, but I will just tell you the answer here is 5.4, and the answer here would be 3.44. I would encourage you to go ahead and do those on Desmos just to make sure that you are able to get that number yourself. It doesn't do you any good to just have those numbers written down. You're the one who's got to be able to do this at the end of the day. So thank you for watching this if you missed class, and I will see you when you're able to be here.